231069 FY, People versus Jessica Lorraine Goebel. That's you?
Yes, sir.
And I met you before at the time of your plea. You're here with your lawyer, Mr. John Bush. Also present is prosecuting attorney David Marvin, and this is a difficult case to know what to do. And I read the pre-sentence, and Mr. Huff spent a lot of time and effort on this. And he is in the same dilemma I did. But let's start at the beginning. It's alleged that on or about April 30th, that you received and concealed a large amount of stolen property that belonged to Trinity Atkinson, including a washer, dryer, couch, bed frame, mattress, side tables, coffee maker, toaster, a whole bunch of stuff, worth more than $1,000, but less than $20,000. So it was charged as a felony offense, punishable by up to 5 years imprisonment and up to $10,000. At any rate, that was the charge. It was reduced to a misdemeanor at the time of the pre-exam conference to a charge called embezzlement over 100, but less than 1,000.
Your Honor, I show R&C 200 to 1,000. You said embezzlement.
Yeah,
Mr. Marvin's correct.
Yeah, it's R&C, receiving, concealing, as opposed to larceny. Yes, you are correct. I'm looking for my other note here. You represented at that time that restitution was in the amount of, I wrote, from $7,000 to $9,668.85. Defendant disputes restitution. She pled no contest, which I always am disappointed in, especially in larceny cases, because the people don't really admit. They just allow or accept that a conviction will enter. So in Matt's pre-sentence, he addresses some of this. And we'll get to that. So we've got a misdemeanor plea to an offense punishable by up to a year in jail. Defendant is presently a resident in a recovery program. I think it's closer to house arrest than I don't think she can walk away from it. In Indiana, she's here. The complainant is here. There's a considerable dispute as to the amount due. Mr. Bush, what would you like me to know?
Well, first of all, I thought that Mr. Huff went above and beyond the call of duty on the report. It's, I think, equivalent almost to a felony pre-sentence investigation. He really looked at all of the angles, the background, the history. Miss Goebel, first thing I do is the eye test, and she looks good. We can tell when people are struggling with particularly drugs and methamphetamine, just their behavior and how they look. And
I had one just a little while ago.
for lack of a better term, she passes the eye test today. The plan is to stay for 9 to 10 months in Serenity House, and then probably she'll stay beyond that because will be under a 2-year house arrest in the state of Indiana. Apparently that starts on September 7th of 2023. She's here with the founder of Serenity House today, Mr. Martin. He brought her here. All of her Indiana cases have been resolved. As part of being at Serenity House, she's working. She'll have the opportunity to make excess money to pay restitution. She's had that job for 2 months. She's working approximately 50 hours per week. She also does services at Bowen Center in Auburn, and she's involved in daily AA programs, and she has a sponsor. I would ask the court to implement the recommendation. Restitution is going to be the critical issue. She'll have a lot of deferred jail hold hanging over her head if she runs afoul of the law. Thank you.
Mr. Marvin, what's your position?
He talks about the passing the eye test, but I think a lot of thieves do. And we're dealing with a thief here. Until history changes, we have now 5 in a row. The only reason this isn't a felony is because I don't want the taxpayers to get ripped off even more, knowing that a conviction at least would get some restitution for the victim, and that's what I'm after. She needs to go to jail. I don't know what goes on in Indiana, but maybe if there were incarceration down there, she'd take it seriously. Things don't add up when you're dealing with a thief. You've got a camera cord that was cut, so the surveillance was cut. You've got a bolt cutter to break into a storage unit. You've got somebody who spent a lot of years collecting things and trying to put a life together, and she's young. I think she told me she's only 23 years old, and it's pretty sad. This also might be a lesson for her, though, in insurance. Why it's so important to have insurance, because thieves steal from you, and sometimes you can't do much about it. The restitution we'll get into, we're asking for the full amount. We've got some receipts to prove at least a great portion of it, though. But don't let the visual test fool you, Your Honor. She needs to go to jail.
All right, this is a no contest plea, but Ms. Goebel, you have an opportunity to say anything if you wish. Anything you wish to say?
I know that my history looks bad, and I know that I've done a lot of things in the past. I was given an opportunity to change my life. I was in court one day, and Ben Martin, the founder of the Serenity House, he walked in, and he came up to me and asked me if I wanted help, if I wanted to change. And he gave me his phone number, and I took his phone number, and I came back to Sturgis after that court date. And 2 days later, I called him, and I told him that I was ready to change. I've never had an opportunity to get out of the drug life before. I don't have family around. I don't have anything. And when he gave me that opportunity, I jumped on it, and I called him. He came and picked me up that same day, and he drove me to the Serenity House. And I've been there every day since then. I'm 73 days clean. I do AA. My life is changing immensely. I have a 3-year-old little boy, and I'm fighting to get custody back from him, for him. And I see him twice a week. He comes and he sees me at the Serenity House. He has a Lifeline lady that brings him. I don't know how to explain it, but I know that I know that I will never touch a drug again. I know this isn't about a drug case, it's a theft charge. But I think we all know that theft and drugs come hand in hand.
Yes.
And I'm just asking for an opportunity to be able to continue my time at the Serenity House and to continue staying clean. My life has changed. I feel like a new person. I know that doesn't bring her things back. I know that doesn't change anything that happened, but I'm willing to make it right with her, do anything to make her feel like things have been satisfied in her eyes.
All right, we are 73 days clean is a good start. One thing I didn't hear is I'm sorry. And as I said, I don't really like no contest pleas. This was clearly felony territory. We're talking between $4,000 and $10,000 worth of restitution. Under the part that says opinion, third paragraph, she presents as open and honest is the first line of the opinion, but Ms. Goebel holds to the fact that she did know that she was in possession of stolen property. It's supposed to say Ms. Goebel holds to the fact that she did not know that she was in possession of stolen property. somebody cut the camera feed, cut the lock off this, and stole stuff that can't be replaced. Her husband was deployed in the Marine Corps, and someone stole all of his clothes, his uniforms, their furniture, their washer, dryer, personal items, all stolen. And then you post it for sale on Marketplace, and she sees her stolen couch on there and confronts you. And this other guy don't know nothing about nothing.
I said I did know.
So when the thing is broken into, there were no tire impressions of any value. It did not appear anything was left at the scene from the suspects. There is one camera at the entrance of the facility. The camera was located on the east side to the rear. That wire was cut. I did not observe that any other units had been broken into. We asked the owners, the Hamiltons, if they had been having any issues. They said they've been having an issue with Jessica Goebel trespassing on their property. She is said to be either walking or driving a red SUV with no registration plate. So before they even saw this on Marketplace, you were already the numero uno suspect. But you don't know that this stuff is stolen. They want $9,000 restitution. And Matt and I discussed this. So what do? You're working. You're gonna be working. You're in this facility. You had a bit of a crime wave: possession of methamphetamine, auto theft, and theft. And you're right, theft and methamphetamine sort of go hand in hand. So you had a rough 2022. But then in April of 23, you have been on bond. No, this occurred in December of 22. So you were out on bond on those charges at the time this went down. So Mr. Marvin says, well, great, you're in rehab, but you're a thief, and he wants punishment, which would certainly interrupt the treatment protocol that you're on. Are you willing to accept their restitution figure?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Huff, you have anything to add?
Very briefly, the 2 points I was going to speak to were on the recommendation. The reason my initial tendency was in hand with what Mr. Marvin said. The only reason that I went down from that jail is that I do feel like enforcing a long period of jail in this circumstance is going to hurt the victim more than it's going to hurt the defendant. Because that is such a substantial restitution. She's gainfully employed now. If she left today signing up for a payment plan, there's hope that the victim could end up getting some of that restitution back. And then the final thing that I would just speak to is obviously, from my perspective, not being an attorney, the restitution was a little bit murky as far as what could be requested. I would recommend that whatever the maximum restitution that is able to be granted would be granted to the Atkinsons.
Well, Mr. Marvin was pretty upfront about it. He said at the time of the plea agreement that that was it. So there are different sentencing goals. Protection of society being foremost, reformation of the offender, punishment. This is a punishment. or 9,668. Mr. Marvin, as far as I know, nobody else has been charged with anything related to this.
Correct.
So I don't think she did this by herself. Her version is that she bought it from somebody, or which is why it's receiving concealing as opposed to larceny. I don't know what happened, but the fine is $0. There's a $75 crime victims' rights fee and a $50 state minimum fee. She has 1 day of jail credit. I'm going to order 101 days in jail credit 1, leaving 100 days to serve in the St. Joseph County Jail. You can resume your treatment protocol after that, but you're being punished for stealing all this lady's property, including your husband's military uniform and 6 years worth of clothing. You did agree to the restitution amount, which I commend, but you never one time said, I'm sorry, and nobody else is going to be liable for this, so let's add that up. And as Matt said, the likelihood of recovering on this is not great. When she gets out of jail, we can set up a payment plan. All right, you're gonna go, you'll get good time credited to this, but you're gonna do 100 days in our jail before you go back to Serenity House.
This case centers around Jessica Lorraine Goebel, a young woman standing before the court on a charge that began as a serious felony and was later reduced to a misdemeanor, but still carried heavy consequences. The court explains that the original allegation involved receiving and concealing stolen property worth between $1,000 and $20,000. Items taken from Trinity Atkinson, including furniture, appliances, personal belongings, and even a Marine's military uniforms while the victim's husband was deployed. The seriousness of the theft is clear. This was not a minor loss, but a violation that deeply impacted a family trying to rebuild their life. At an earlier stage, the charge was reduced to embezzlement over $100, but less than $1,000, a misdemeanor punishable by up to 1 year in jail. However, restitution remained a major dispute, with figures ranging from $7,000 to nearly $9,700. Jessica entered a no-contest plea, which immediately raises concern with the judge, who openly states his dislike for such pleas in theft cases. Because they avoid full accountability. Jessica is currently living in a court-approved recovery program in Indiana, known as Serenity House, which functions almost like house arrest. Her defense attorney emphasizes that she appears sober, stable, and committed to recovery. She is working 50 hours a week, participating in AA meetings, receiving treatment, and actively trying to rebuild her life. The defense argues that continued treatment, not jail, offers the best chance for restitution to be paid and for long-term reform. But the prosecution sees things very differently. The prosecutor reminds the court that this is not Jessica's first offense. This is part of a pattern of theft, and the only reason the case was reduced was to avoid additional costs to taxpayers while still securing restitution for the victim. He stresses disturbing details. Security cameras were cut, locks were broken, and stolen items were later found listed for sale on Facebook Marketplace, where the victim recognized her own couch. Before this discovery, Jessica was already a suspect. Due to ongoing trespassing complaints and suspicious behavior. When given the opportunity to speak, Jessica delivers an emotional statement. She admits her past looks bad, but explains that she had been trapped in addiction with no family support. She describes how a chance encounter with the founder of Serenity House changed her life. She says she has been 73 days clean, is fighting to regain custody of her 3-year-old son, and insists she will never return to drugs. She asks the court for one thing: a chance to continue treatment and make things right. The judge listens carefully, but his concern grows. He points out something crucial. Despite the emotional speech, Jessica never once said, "I'm sorry." The judge then lays out the evidence again: the cut surveillance wire, the forced entry, the missing items, the resale of stolen property, and the victim's devastating losses. He notes that Jessica claimed she didn't know the items were stolen, yet the circumstances strongly suggest otherwise. The judge acknowledges her recovery efforts and agrees that jail could reduce the victim's chance of full restitution. However, he also emphasizes that punishment, public safety, and accountability cannot be ignored, especially since the offense occurred while Jessica was already out on bond for other crimes, including meth possession and auto theft after. Weighing everything, the court delivers its decision. Jessica is ordered to pay $9,668 in restitution, with no fine but mandatory fees. She receives 101 days in jail with 1-day credit, meaning she must serve 100 days in county jail before returning to treatment. The judge makes it clear rehabilitation matters, that actions have consequences, especially when trust is repeatedly broken. The hearing ends with a sobering message: recovery may be real, but accountability cannot be postponed. This case is not just about theft or addiction. It is about responsibility, honesty, and the cost of choices that hurt others. If this case shocked you, don't scroll away. Drop your opinion in the comments. Was this justice or too harsh? Hit like so more. People see the truth, and subscribe for real courtroom moments you won't find anywhere else. New cases, real consequences, no filters.